Hey, it's Dr. Darren Schmidt at the Nutritional Healing Center of Ann Arbor. So I had this thought I want to share with you. I only have like a few minutes, but I want to get this on YouTube. So the question is, what to eat on your deathbed? And there's clinical history behind this answer that I'm going to give you. And I'm going to start off with Weston Price, and then Dr. Budwig, and then somebody else. But the point is, like, if you're at your wit's end, and you may only have a few days to live, the thing to eat is fat and protein, and not wheat, not shots of wheatgrass juice, not kale smoothies. So let me share this with you. So Weston Price, he's the guy that traveled the world in the 1930s, looking at 134 indigenous tribes and looking at their diet. He was also famous as a dentist. He wrote these big volumes on dental care. He's also famous for going to people's deathbed and saving their life by giving them two things: cod liver oil and then June butter. June butter is butter that comes from cows that are eating grass from the month of June. So think through the spring, you got April and May, and the grass really starts to grow in June really fast. So the cows eat that grass. The butter is orange, it's not yellow. So he said that it's not just cod liver oil alone, and it's not just the butter alone. You got to give both. So he was famous for supplying this. He'd go to people's homes and he would save their life. Now, the next person is Dr. Joanna Budwig. She worked with Dr. Otto Warburg, and he's the guy that figured out how cancer cells metabolize and respire. And she was part of a team, I think of like 17 people is what I was told. And they were the scientists that followed up on his work after he retired. And she figured out the exact oils and proteins necessary to return cancer cells back to normal, to return the respiration and metabolism from altered and sickly, like cancer, back to a healthy cell. And you can look up Dr. Budwig's diet. It's called the oil and protein diet. It includes real cottage cheese and then a live raw flaxseed that's chopped up in front of you, and then you consume it. So it's not the flax, you're not chewing flaxseed, you're actually chopping up the seeds, and then the oil permeates through the cottage cheese, and you consume that. So she had a hospital, and people would come from all over. She was always busy, and the hospital would be full. And so sometimes people would come bring their sickly loved ones to a local hotel, and they would drive to the front door of the hospital, and she would come out and feed them her oil and protein diet, the basis of that diet. Then they would drive back to the hotel, and they would do this several times a day. But yeah, she had great results. And of course, she was totally squashed by the conventional medical profession of the era. So again, there's another example of fat and protein for people who are very like on their deathbed. So the third person I want to talk about is a guy named Ajunas Vander Planets. And I know it's a weird name. It's not the name that he was born with. But he has quite a wild story. And he was very sickly in his 20s. He had multiple types of cancer, and he struggled with his health. And when he was 30, cancer came back, and he gave up on life. He moved to the desert, and he was going to commit suicide. And he actually started to try to commit suicide by eating raw meat. When he was a kid, he was told by, I think it was his uncle, if you ever hunt rabbit, you got to cook the meat all the way till it's brown. You can't eat pink meat from rabbit, or you will be dead within 48 hours. So he's eating raw rabbit meat in the desert of California. And that night he had like sort of an out-of-body experience. His pain was gone, and he thought he was gonna die, because he had out-of-body experiences before on the surgeon's table twice. So the next morning he wakes up, and he's not dead, and he has enough energy to go for the next 3 days. So eating the raw meat didn't kill him, and actually solved all of his health problems. So he tells a story. This is my last story. I'm gonna end off. But he tells a story where this woman calls him up, and he had been traveling around in the 80s and 90s and giving lectures about, he calls it the primal diet. He's the guy that started the primal diet. So this woman calls him up and says, I'm going to die this weekend. I have emphysema. I can't get out of bed. What do I do? And he says, well, eat as many raw eggs as you possibly can. So she calls him back on Monday and says, okay, I didn't die. I'm now out of bed. What do I do? And he says, well, wait a minute. What did you do? And she said, I ate 33 raw eggs on Saturday and 33 raw eggs on Sunday. So, and that like saved her life. It got her out of her deathbed. So the lesson here is like, if you have cancer and you have cachexia going on, you're losing weight and it doesn't look good, you can't fast, you still want to get into ketosis because ketosis stops the cachexia cycle. What do you have? It's fat and protein. What would possibly be the best like source of fat and protein? Well, you got the raw eggs, like I just mentioned, the cod liver oil, like I mentioned, the June butter, like I mentioned. That would include organ meats. That would include like cuts of steak that's rare, cooked rare, or maybe even raw. So like getting back to the way, going back to the diets that our ancestors would eat all around the world from the dawn of time. So yeah, but like I said at the beginning, it's not a kale shake. It's not a bone broth protein powder drink on your deathbed. It's fat and protein. It's raw. It's raw. So there you go. Now you have it. I just downloaded it to you. And this is stuff that I'm, and this is like information that I've gathered over the years. And as I listen to more people and as I apply it with my patients, it makes more and more sense that would be like a really good solution potentially. And I hope you like this information. And now I'm looking at the comments. One of these days, I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers. I got 86,000 right now. I think when we hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to do live Q&A for like an hour or something. I got to set the time aside. I got to be really well rested and well fed. And that way I'll just read through these comments right here and answer questions. Don't ask me questions like, is the earth flat? Don't ask me that kind of stuff. But we'll talk about healthcare. All right, cool. All right, thanks. See ya. Bye.